the last semester in college, my senior year, I had room in my schedule for one last elective. And that meant that you could go through the curriculum guide, and as a senior, you could pick out any course you wanted to take. No matter what the department might have been, you had seniority. And I was looking through the curriculum guide, and I came across a course called The Philosophy of Religion. And I said, well, that sounds kind of interesting. I'm going to be a pastor. I'm going to take a philosophy course. And I always wanted to take at least one philosophy course because whenever I would walk by the philosophy professors and their students, they always seemed to be having a pretty good time. They were sitting around in a circle, about 9 or 10 people, under a tree somewhere, and the professor had a tie-dyed T-shirt on and Birkenstocks with dark socks and a beard and a bandana around his head. They always looked like they were enjoying life. And I said, you know what? I think that in philosophy you must sit around and talk about the meaning of life. And I said, you know, for my last semester here, I think I want to do that. I want to figure out the meaning of life. So I signed up for this philosophy course thinking that it was going to be a little bitty class. And you know, as a senior, no matter how full the class is, you can bump people. And it's like if you're flying coach and you have more miles than somebody in first class, you get to bump them. You get to bump them back to the back row. So I wasn't worried about not getting into the class. So I got into the class, and I said, this is going to be a small class. We're going to sit under an oak tree. We're going to talk about the meaning of life for the semester. That's going to be good. I think if you're going to be a person in this world, you need to know the meaning of life. So anyway, I go up to where the class is supposed to be, and right away I'm shocked. First of all, the class is not small. It is packed. It is standing room only. And I said, my goodness, what is going on? And then in comes the professor. That was my second surprise. I was expecting, like I said, the guy in the tie-dyed T-shirt and the Birkenstocks with dark socks and those shorts on that have all the pockets in them that Scott Ranger wears, you know. And in comes this gentleman who's about 6'5", very tall, very handsome, and really well dressed. He had on a polo golf shirt, and I don't know if y'all are old enough to remember Sansa pants. Y'all remember those pants? They were slick-looking golf pants, and he had on a pair of them that were lime green. And they had a band in there so you didn't have to wear a belt. And so he comes in there, and I said, you know what? This guy looks more like he's from Chapel Hill than he does Durham. I thought maybe I was in the wrong school or something. But anyway, he comes in there, and as I get to know the other students, I'm a little bit surprised. They weren't there because they wanted an easy course. They weren't there because they were happy and at peace with themselves. They were there as seniors because they had lost their way during the 4 years they were there, and all of the things that they had planned seemed to have been turned upside down. Some of them had come into college as a freshman, wanted to do this or wanted to do that, and then they find out when they're in school that they really don't like that area at all. And so they are searching for some kind of meaning to life, searching for some kind of purpose in life, and they are hoping, and this is their last chance, that this professor will give them some kind of direction as they leave school and go out into the world. And so I sat in that class, and it was called The Philosophy of Religion. And what had happened was that there were a lot of subtle implications. In order to find the meaning of life, this professor said, you had to find the meaning of his life. And he said, once we find the meaning of his life, you can find the meaning for your life. Once we understand why Jesus was born, we can understand why we were born. Once we understand his purpose for coming, we can understand our purpose for being born. And so tonight, in 15 minutes or less, I am going to share with you the meaning of life. My son brought me up here tonight because I didn't want to take up a parking spot. And he said, "Dad, what's the title of your sermon?" I said, "The meaning of life." He said, "You going to cover that in 15 minutes? I said, "Watch me, Aaron." I said, "We'll do it. We'll get it done." But let's talk about the meaning of the birth of Christ. And then we will understand better the meaning for our birth. And Jesus came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And he went to the synagogue, as his custom was on the Sabbath day. And he stood up to read, and there was given to him the book of the prophet Isaiah. He opened the book, and he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives, and to recover the sight to the blind, and to set at liberty those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord." And Jesus closed the book, and he gave it back to the attendant, and he sat down. And the eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. And he began to say to them, "Today, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." I am here in the midst of your world to bring to you not only the meaning of my presence, but the meaning of yours. We all know John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever would believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life." And that particular text of Scripture goes on to say that Jesus came into the world not to condemn the world, but to save it. And so we understand from the birth of Jesus Christ, and I want you to know this when you leave here tonight, that he came into our lives to bring us the answer to a lot of our questions. He came into the midst of our lives to bring joy, to bring good news, to bring to you a sense of purpose, hope, forgiveness, and encouragement. He burst into our lives and he said, "Look, I want you to be a part of my Sunday, but I want you also to let me be a part of your Monday. I want to give definition and purpose to why you were born." Another place in the Bible, it says in John 8:31, Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." This is why worship is so important. And you know that, or you wouldn't be here tonight. As we continue to come into the presence of God's grace, little by little, he unveils to us our purpose for being. He unveils to us more and more his purpose for coming. And as we come into the presence of God's grace and word and in sacrament, our eyes are open to our true purpose for being here. Yes, the birth of Jesus Christ was a miracle, and we praise that miracle tonight. But you know what else? Your birth was a miracle as well. You are here for a reason. And if you've never been in a delivery room, you should go sometime, because you will behold a true miracle of God's grace, the miracle of your birth. So you were put here for a reason. And I'll tell you what that reason was. You were put here to be loved by God, to love God, and to love your neighbor. And this is cleared up for us in Matthew chapter 22. The rabbis are asking Jesus all kinds of questions. And one of them says, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." And St. Paul said, and I think this is the reason Paul said it, because I think somebody asked St. Paul in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul, of all the gifts that you have received from the kingdom of heaven, which is the most precious to you? Well, Paul said, the greatest gifts that I've received from the kingdom of heaven are faith, hope, and love. But one stands out above all others. And you know what that is. What is that? Absolutely. Is there any better feeling in the world than to be loved by somebody and to give that love out? What better feeling is there than to be loved and to share love? And as we come into the presence of God's grace, He gives us that perfect, unconditional love. And He wants us to share that with those around us. So, in general, this is the meaning of God's life in Jesus Christ. To bring hope to the world, to each of us. And the meaning of your life is to be loved by God, to love God, and to love your neighbor as yourself. I had a member of my church in Garner, North Carolina. He came up to me after one of my sermons, and he says, Pastor Grunke, that was a good sermon. And I was waiting for the but. I like buts. And he says, but you never give us anything specific. You got to be more specific. I'm here searching for the meaning of life. I'm here searching for a purpose in life. Why was I born in the first place? Can't you be more specific? And I looked at him and I said, absolutely, I can be more specific. You are here to be loved by God, to love God, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And how you do that is between you and Jesus. I knew from the time I was 7 years old that my purpose in life was to share the good news of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And that kind of sense of purpose gives you peace. And each one of you has a purpose in life as well. And I can speak to you generally about your purpose in life, but the specifics have to be worked out between you and God. So if you are struggling with that and wondering what your purpose is on this earth, He invites you to pray. He invites you to talk to Him about that and then listen for His answer. But I'll be as specific as I can be tonight. I like to go to Costco. That's my other store. My first store, as you all know, is what? Right. But I love Costco. Even if I don't need anything, I like to go to Costco about lunchtime. And I'm not going there to eat that hot dog and that Caesar salad and that piece of pizza. I can't believe people would pay for food at Costco. Why do you do that? Just walk to the back of the store, walk up to the front of the store, walk back a couple more times, and you will be full. And you know why? Because they are handing out samples all the time of one product or another. And they're hoping and praying that if you think the sample is good enough, you will buy that particular product. When you get up in the morning, I want you to know this. This is your purpose in life. This is why God has called you. You are to go out into the world, wherever you work, wherever you go to school, and wherever you play. And you are to hand out a sample of God's love every opportunity you have. And hopefully, somebody will take a hold of that sample so well that they'll want to know where that kind of love comes from. And then you can be that angel who went out into the field and told the shepherds to come and see the baby Jesus. You can be that star that led the wise men to the baby Jesus. You might be that one person that makes somebody's day so well that they will want to know, where does that love come from? And you can say without hesitation, from the manger, the baby Jesus.